What's that? Oh, right. Contact DJ Riza. You sound like you should be in IB for or something. And is that a live stream? To those pussies that spat at Hassan. I'm here all day.
Content over everything.
Is it live streaming that one?
Yeah, rolling.
Right. So, is it?
We got enough battery to go back on.
Come over here, stand there. Let's trigger them. I'll just give my speech to them.
You give your speech.
Alright, so
How's Tang?
Huh?
How's Tang?
He's fine. He's fine. More than
don't
fine.
mention that name here. You crazy. Let's start. Alright, so is it starting?
I ain't paying that shit here.
Right. Is it?
I ain't got it ready yet, have I?
I know he really is.
You're back.
Go on
I'm
Facebook.
back!
Now
Yeah!
we've got two people with irritating laughs, you and Banksy.
What's on your mind?
Oh, all right then.
At the top.
It's not that irritating though, is it?
Not as bad as his though. So yours is actually
Then go
sounds
down
quite
and you
cool.
find
Oh,
go live.
see, mine's better now, yeah?
Yeah, compared to his heckle,
Oh, that's all
you're
right
gonna have to
then.
listen to it. What's going on? Is it ready?
Yeah, man.
Rolling? All right, so last week I had the Veterans Against Terrorism coming down. Big up to the Veterans Against Terrorism and Richard Inman in particular. I really appreciate your support. Last week wasn't about us coming down here to kind of cause trouble. It was just to show that Speaker's Corner belongs to everybody. And you didn't hear my speech, but that wasn't the point. The point was to give the speech and be able to do the speech without getting stopped. And I did it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read the full speech. And I'll do it from beginning to end. It's going to touch upon two subjects. Obviously about the bullying that's been happening at Speaker's Corner, but also about being British. And I didn't plant him here. He was here. I didn't get him here for today. So I'll read the speech. So it's going to be around 10 minutes, so prepare. So since the 16th of September, 5 weeks ago, I've been protesting nearly every Sunday at this spot over the bullying and intimidation at Speaker's Corner. But today is the end of my protest. That was last week. I would like to thank Richard Inman and the Veterans Against Terrorism for coming down and supporting me on that day. Before I go into my speech, I want to make it crystal clear that I am not representing the Sikh community, but myself. And although some of my fellow Sikhs disagree with me and how I convey my message, there are lots that do agree with me, especially on the issue of Asian Muslim grooming gangs. I know after this speech I will be called the usual derogatory insults like Uncle Tom, Coconut, Bounty Bar, Traitor, etc. by the usual suspects, and that I'm being used by the right as a token Sikh. To them I say this: nobody apart from my mum can control me or make me do something I don't want to do. Not Tommy Robinson, not Richard Inman, not the DFLA, not the FLA or even the Sikh community. Whatever I do is my choice, through my own free will. And if I felt any of these people or organisations were racist or went against my moral principles, I will condemn them and call them out publicly. So why did I start the protest? Speaker's Corner has been around since 1872 and is a landmark and cornerstone for free speech in the UK. It has had extremely controversial and world-changing speakers like Lenin, Karl Marx, George Orwell, etc. with few incidents. But over the last 2 years, Speaker's Corner has slowly been reduced to a place where free speech is being suppressed by bullying, intimidation and violence. Due to time constraints, I cannot describe how it got to this point, but the last 6 weeks has seen the culmination of all that is wrong erupt. The catalyst for this was Tan's speech and controversial behaviour on the 9th of September. I totally condemn Tan's behaviour and racist language. And although I strongly disagree with him, he still had the right to express himself without threats of violence or intimidation. After Tan was escorted at Speaker's Corner, things turned nasty and a witch hunt ensued. And over the course of the day, people were bullied, intimidated, threatened with violence, and in some cases actually assaulted like Callum from Titans TV. Others were bullied into apologies, and some women were surrounded like Louise, intimidated and harassed. This is unacceptable and can never be condoned. I never apologised. Due to this, over the following week I was harassed and received threats of violence that I would be removed from the park by force if I did not apologise. I stood firm and came to Speaker's Corner at this spot the following Sunday to protest. where I remained till that day. My aim was to highlight the bullying and intimidation and the forced implementation of religious blasphemy laws in relation to criticising certain ideologies like Islam. Throughout the day I was harassed and received threats to leave Speaker's Corner and apologise. I refused and repeated my catchphrase, "I ain't paying that bullshit, Jizzy, you're mad." In response, this phrase, although humorous, has a serious meaning behind it. The jizya tax is a protection tax under Sharia law, which is to subdue and demean the Muslims or non-Muslims or kuffars into submission. Under Sharia, the payment is money, but under Speaker's Corner Sharia, the payment is apologies, begging for forgiveness, and shutting your free speech. After hours of abuse and threats, I was escorted out of Speaker's Corner by the police for my own safety, followed by a baying mob and taken to safety. Don't worry. For the mindless mob, this was a victory. In reality, they had lost, as this only strengthened my resolve to come back and express my freedom of speech through protesting. Over this time, you might have seen my chessboard and Connect 4 set up with the slogan, "I am playing chess and you're playing Connect 4." This might seem like the behaviour of a madman, but the message was simple, which is my game plan was sophisticated and 10 steps ahead, which is akin to playing chess, and in comparison, the violent savage mob's game was as simplistic as playing Connect 4. I was called a misfit, a beta male, a weirdo. To those people I say I'm all of those, but guess what? You're ultimately going to lose to this misfit, beta male and weirdo, as intimidation, bullying and violence will only get you so far before you're exposed for the bullies that you are. The biggest hypocrisy, though, is a reason for me and others being forced out of the park as hate preachers. For me, it was highlighting the Asian Muslim grooming gangs, extremism, terrorism and other issues that affect us all. These issues are real, but now we have come to the ludicrous and sad point in the UK where facts are now classified as hate facts. I want to ask the individuals that want me out of Speaker's Corner for being a hate preacher, do they also want their fellow brothers out? As a hypocrisy of calling me a hate preacher when there are individuals here that condone terrorism, extremism and hatred is mind-blowing. Ask yourself this, is it hate speech when Muslims openly support a barbaric legal system like Sharia law that calls for the execution of apostates, homosexuals, transgenders, blasphemers, adulterers, etc., with actual real-life consequences that are truly hateful, like chopping off heads and hands and throwing gays off buildings and stoning adulterers? Is that not hate speech? Throughout the last year, I've heard countless Muslims openly agree and justify this barbaric system, and others wanting to implement it in 21st century Britain. But I am condemned as a hate preacher for criticising and opposing it. Does that sound logical to you? But even though I condemn this practice, I will still defend your rights to express your views supporting it. This is the beauty of free speech, as it allows us to express our true feelings, and in doing so, we can expose and challenge the bad ideas and embrace the good ideas. And in my opinion, blasphemy laws and Sharia law is a motherload of bad ideas. The next part of my speech is about the future of the UK and multiculturalism. Over the last 25 years, I've seen the Asian community, which comprises many of Sikhs, Hindus and Muslims, start to go into a separate and very distinct direction. Although I condemn the history of the British colonial past, and especially slavery, I do classify myself as British. To be more precise, I am British by nationality, Punjabi by ethnicity, and Sikh by faith. All three of these components have created the person I am here today. Take one component out and I will not be the same person you see standing here. The biggest issue that has arisen facing the UK and now in the future is integration. When I speak to the various communities in the UK and ask the question, are you British? The answer, depending on the community, varies drastically. For me, if you are a permanent UK resident, the answer should be a simple yes. The Sikh and Hindu community have on the whole embraced being British without losing their unique identity. But the sad truth is that to a lot of people from other immigrant backgrounds, this is either difficult to answer, or is a categorical no? And this is going to be the most controversial part of my speech. And once again, I do not speak for the Sikh community. I speak for myself. But the Asian, Sikh and Hindu community on a whole have been successful immigrants to the UK and are excelling in all areas. This cannot be said for the Asian Muslim community, which is why I personally feel the umbrella term Asian community is outdated and should not be used, as it lumps the different communities together who now have very different outlooks and goals in the UK. And although I do not have kids, but I do have nephews and nieces who I love and care for and want the best for in the future. In order for that to happen, the UK needs to be unified. And we need to accept we are British while still keeping and embracing our unique cultures and faiths too. And to any racists and bigots out there that say we can't be British, I say shut up. As I'm a British Sikh and you cannot do anything about it. If you keep on telling someone they can't be British because of the colour of their skin, then all you would do is feed into the division and alienate them and make them hate the UK more. I will try and end on a positive note, which is that the majority of Asian Muslims just want to work, look after their families and enjoy life. And a lot would consider themselves British, including an ex-soldier who goes to Speaker's Corner and served in the UK military, which a lot of people haven't. But due to the extremists within their community, expressing their loyalty to the UK can be problematic and even dangerous. But these are the people that we need to build bridges with and support. Before I end, I want to mention that Tommy Robinson has had his court case on the 23rd. And so big up to Tommy Robinson. It's been, what has it been? It's been, I think it's going to be re-adjourned for another day. So,
6 months.
And I also want to give my support to Soldier X for his bravery in speaking out against the stupidity of the UK Army. And after all the speeches are over, obviously this is the only one, I recommend going around Speaker's Corner and talking to each other and to put aside your own prejudices about each other. As the only way to move forward is to talk openly, which is why Speaker's Corner and free speech is so crucial to the UK. So that's it.
Well done.
Thank you, Raj. Not only are you British, you're my friend as well.
And that's from a white man, so seal of approval. Huh? Yeah, I know. We can shake you white man's hands.
I'll shake everybody's hand.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do the thing. I don't shake people's hands. I do the thing. That was it. I'm going to be moving about now. I've done my bit.
So Raj is buying
and the turn round, that's Mohin Khan here. The guy that lies Jedi's big black clock. He called me a raghead earlier. He called me a raghead, I got it on camera. He said he wants to fight me. So when the police come over, we might get him removed. This guy's a troll.
And you're a racist, Raj.
This is when internet trolling goes wrong. The biggest power for an internet troll is anonymity. But I don't know who he is, it's you. So you've lost your internet trolling. He called me a raghead. I will be putting that online. So Mohin Khan's finally been exposed. Well done. All right, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to be walking about now. So
Well done, Raj.
Content over everything. From your
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen! COE! Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky Magic. I just listen to COE! Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky Magic. Man, just listen to COE! Man, just listen to COE! Man, just listen to COE! If you see me, it's COE! Content over everything. COE!
Man, not even know BBC. Man, not even know ITV. Not even listen to the MUM. They just listen to COE.